Rhino, is that you?
There, I think I got it.
Brad?
Yes, sir. Lionel?
Yeah, don't let our guest into the studio yet.
Okay. He's in the green room.
Yeah, he's not allowed in the studio.
Okay.
Did you fix your audio adjust volume problem yet?
I thought I had it fixed earlier, but it's doing it again.
There, it just did it again. Are you there? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. It just disgusts me that that's still doing that.
It disgusts me too, if it makes you feel any better.
It does.
You know what? We need somebody from the AML Nation to contact you and help you fix it.
Yeah, we need a computer expert for
Why don't you put it on the fans page?
All right, that's a good idea.
Yeah, just put out there on the fans page. Help! My headset keeps audio adjusting and I can't fix it. And I bet
it's weird because any microphone that I plug in does that.
It just did it again.
Yep, it did.
So, Brad, what's the number one rule here at the old AML Nation?
Don't make the evil overlord angry.
Nope.
Not it.
Nope.
Don't be a butthead.
Nope.
That's not it either.
Nope.
Fellowship.
Nope.
Oh, Stride just struck out. 3 strikes and you're out.
Yeah.
Can you give me a hint?
No.
Have good audio at all times.
Yeah. Have good audio at all times.
Okay. I'm trying.
Are you?
Yeah.
No, the number one, I bet you our guest knows what it is. I bet you if we brought him in here, he'd know what it was.
Okay.
The number one rule here at the old AML Nation is transparency is rule number one.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that.
Accuracy, not so much.
Gotcha.
But transparency is rule number one. And there's a reason why I'm trying to get you to tell me that.
Okay.
And do you know what that reason is?
No, I don't.
Oh, my God. Why are you here?
I don't know.
Me neither. Look at this. Patrick Moore, your buddy, I guess, resent, he posted something from the Onondaga cutoff. Let me see. I'm going to go see what it is. See you in Springfield for the second year in a row, and thanks to the generosity of a Modeler's Life podcast, the Onondaga cutoff will be present with the table at the Big E, the railroad explosion to beat them all. We're in a better living center. Look, and it's on the map. Oh, my God. This is the first time Uncle Dave irritated the living crap out of me.
About that map thing.
Oh, my God. And I'm thinking, can I be on the map? Can I be listed? Can I be on the map? Can I be on the map? And I'm thinking, buddy, it's your second year. And he wants to be on the map. He wants to be on the map. And I'm like, no, you're part of the Modeler's Life. Well, I would really like to be. Oh, my God. If I told you that story on the air, we'd be here for 2 days.
Oh, geez. So is he on the map?
Yeah. So our guest, I guess, posted it on the Iron City N scale.
Yes.
That they're there. Have you ever been to the Iron City N scale?
I've been there a few times. Yes.
Okay. So here is so here at the old AML Nation, transparency is rule number one. Accuracy is basically an afterthought. Okay. All right. Yep. So I really struggled with this particular podcast. Now, when the first thing you got to remember is this is on the free channel. It's an episode. You know, it's like episode 227 or 231 or whatever episode it is. And so it's on the free channel. So when I say Rapido Trains,
your fast track to model railroading fun,
you have to say your fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model
I nailed that.
You nailed that. You nailed that. So I think that tonight's guest is going to be really interesting. And really, it's kind of tonight's show is the top. Really, the guest is the Iron City N scale. I feel like the Iron City N scale is really the guest. But in all great movies, there's always an underlying romantic tone.
Okay.
And I felt like I wanted to do this particular podcast with you, with just me, you, and the guest.
Okay.
But I really thought it'd be a lot of fun to have the mailboy and Kelly and the table master, and the queso cowboy here with us. But I didn't think we'd get to have a chance to really do an in-depth, because everybody would be talking and everything.
Okay.
But you know how Kelly loves romance chick flicks.
Yes, I do.
Right? I mean, because his favorite Christmas movie is Love Actually with Hugh Grant. And as we explained to him in great detail, if a movie has the word love in the title and Hugh Grant is in the movie, it's a chick flick.
Yes, but that does not dissuade him from still loving that movie, does it?
Right. So I thought because tonight's podcast has this fantastic underlying romantic theme to it, he would be an ideal co-host to be with us.
Mm-hmm.
But then I thought, well, then if he's on, I should get the mailboy. And if I get the mailboy, I should get the table master. And if I get the table master, I should get the queso cowboy. And I feel like we've got a lot to talk about. So
you settled for me then.
I struggled with this for honestly, I struggled with this for 4 days. I have been, even up until an hour ago, I almost was going to get those guys involved. And I thought, these are the kinds of things that I struggle with making this podcast.
Yep.
Producing
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. That's why it is of such high quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So as we go along, you're going to understand how this particular subject, this subject, has this very heartwarming romantic undertone to it.
Okay. I'm looking forward to that.
So our guest tonight is none other than Patrick Moore.
The other fellow, Toffee.
Yeah. How did he end up with the name Toffee? What does Toffee stand for?
Well, we gave him the name The Other Fellow because when we met at Tomstock the first time and you talked about it, you couldn't remember his name. So
right.
And then when he retired from the Army, he became independent. So you added the I.
Okay. That's pretty smart of me, eh?
That was brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. That was a stroke of producing brilliance.
It was. And the name has stuck too.
Oh, has it?
It has, yes.
Okay, yeah. So when I went to Tomstock, we had a little bit of a problem with the dinner, which we don't need to go over because it was partly my fault. I'd take some of the responsibility. Mm-hmm. And when I got there, steam was coming out of my ears.
Yes, it was.
So I was looking for somewhere to sit where I wouldn't offend anybody, which is almost impossible. And
but you found a place because you didn't offend anybody.
Yeah. So then I saw David Start and his brother Bill, and you two guys, and I guess David Yale was at that table too.
Yes. David Yale was. That was the first time I ever met David. Well, it was the first time I ever met lots of people that night.
It was the first time I ever met the three of you guys.
Yeah.
And Pat had posted to the AML Nation page, and he'd been a fan for a while, and both you guys had been a fan. And then as we started to talk in the couple of years that passed, I would say, "What was the other guy's name? What was that other fellow's name?"
Yep. And the funny part was, you told us that night. I'm not going to remember your names.
Yeah. And you know why I said that?
Because you were transparent.
And I don't remember people's names. I hate that.
Yes.
I hate that about myself because my superpower is to forget stuff. And sometimes it crosses into, stuff you should remember, but you don't.
I know. Yep.
I have this theory in life. The kind of things I remember are when you're using a skill saw, don't put your fingers near the blade.
Yep.
Right? That's the kind of stuff I remember. somebody's going to say something to me about this particular podcast, and all they're going to get back in return is a blank stare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So anyways, tonight we're going to have Patrick Moore, a.k.a. the other fellow, a.k.a. the independent other fellow, a.k.a. Toffee.
Yes.
Brad Williamson from downtown Crater, Pennsylvania. And
at the bottom of a series of switchbacks, yes.
I don't see the crater. I never saw the crater as being that big.
Oh, didn't you? Okay.
No, I saw it as maybe like a 12-foot deep. I even put a picture in there so everybody would know.
You did. It was a very nice picture, too.
Yeah, it was great. So, okay, why don't you go down to the studio or the green room and get Pat out and get him to come into the studio.
Okay, I will go get him. Pat, put those shrimp down, and you've been summoned to the studio room. Come on in.
Have you guys seen the date on that cocktail sauce? I mean, it has to be 3 years old. Woo.
They dated? They put dates on it?
I've been in that green room, I think, for 2 years now, so I'm ready to go.
Well, now you sound like you're thinking a lot of yourself, like you were invited on 2 years ago. I really only ever had that thought about a month ago. So
yeah, it was always that that other guy, and I was just like, oh, spoiled again. We'll try next year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so get off your high horse there and just. So have I told you, Pat, about how much this whole thing with Dave getting his the Onondaga cut off on the map, how much that just irritated the living crap out of me?
I noticed that once I posted, I was chuckling because I was like, oh, look, he even put the map. He posted the map, circled it. I was like, wow, no one's going to not know where Dave is at Springfield.
I know. It's like the guy that's got 700 assists in the NHL, and he tips one. He's the first guy he makes the first pass, and it's tipped in, and he's like, "Don't forget to put me on this." And it's like, you're already Dave Abel. For crying out loud.
Yeah, and like people wouldn't find him anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like he was just like it was like being pecked to death by a duck.
Oh boy.
Oh, that's what are you going to do? You gotta make sure that he's on the map. So now he is, and now it's posted. So
now I'm wondering. Now I'm wondering what it's going to be next year. We have 4 tables, or we used to have 4. Now we got 3, and next year it's going to be like, well, I could really use more space to kind of stretch out here and to display all my books, And
maybe all of us, maybe everybody will have to come out in the parking lot with me next year.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to have Brad do some live videos from the show. So I'll make sure he'll get everybody on the Iron City there. So we'll have to make sure that Brad gets some airtime with Dave. Definitely.
Are you seriously going to do that?
We're going to try, I think, depending on, Brad's camera work. Normally we're together when we're doing something live. So I've given him a task. I feel like a producer or something, like, all right, Brad, your assignment is to do some live stuff at Springfield.
You know how I found out about that assignment too? I read it on the Iron City Facebook page. It was posted before I even knew I was given the assignment.
That's how things work at the Iron City. You post and then you ask.
So you have spent 3 or 4 years building this thing up to the quality that it is, and now you're going to put Brad on the air live from Springfield.
Yeah. It's a gamble, but I think I'm willing to take it. He is going to be there for the first time, so I want to see what his reaction is to acres and acres of model railroad. And so this ought to be a good one. So I'm hoping he can pull it off.
Have you ever seen a little kid when he's left into a candy store? Because that's what it's going to be like, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about, like that 360 spinorama with the camera constantly. Oh, did you see this, guys? Did you see this? Might get a little seasickness.
It may happen, yep.
Did you ever see my video at the Springfield show I did for, what's that thing called that Model Railroad Hobbyist has? Their video thing. What do they call it? I can't even remember. Train Masters?
Yes, I did see that.
Yeah. It was good, eh?
It was good, yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of masters, I also remember seeing a video of you and the table master driving around inside the Better
That's
Living
right.
Center.
Right.
I did see that one also. I was impressed with those. That looked like almost like a rodeo.
Yeah.
Getting through there.
So do you think I'll get a chance to be on the video, the live video?
Absolutely.
I didn't want to go there yet because I don't know what kind of bylaws or anything you have, or your agent.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we ask kindly before you were taped.
You know what? How about this? Why don't you guys write this down? Don't come anywhere near me.
No flash photography. I got it.
No. Don't come anywhere near me.
If you're nowhere near him, you can do all the flash photography you want.
Exactly. All right. Go ahead. Were you going to say something informative?
No, I was going to say, you'd be like, "Get away, kid! You're bothering me."
Yeah. It hasn't worked for Brad so far.
Nope.
Pat, can I ask you a favor?
Sure.
I'm begging you. I'm begging you. I'm on my knees here. I'm begging you. I'm just like, whatever you need. I'm just like, tell me what you need to get the job done. I'm just begging you. Can you fix his microphone?
There's a lot of minds around the country that are going to try to help him, but I'm not sure on this one. That's an odd one. I've never seen that before.
Right, but are you going to try to help? That's what I'm asking.
I will try to help. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. This is going well so far, don't you think?
I'm enjoying it. Yes.
Yeah. I'm having a good time. Just wondering what holes I'm digging across the AM.
There you go.
Right,
there you go. Because Brad has a garage full of shovels.
And I just had to use them this morning too.
Yeah.
We just got snowed on.
So I think this is a really interesting topic because first thing we got to do going forward is decide this episode, whichever number it is. It's in the 230s, I think now, or it might be 229, somewhere right around 230. I think the thing we got to decide going forward is this episode such and such featuring Patrick Moore? Is it Patrick or Pat?
You can go with Pat. That's fine. Yeah.
But is it Patrick or Pat?
It is Patrick. The formal name is Patrick.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what you prefer?
I go by Pat.
Okay, so it's Pat then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went by Colonel for a couple of years and served for a long time, but I like being retired and I like going Pat. That's the way to go now.
Yeah, okay. So what we got to decide is this episode with Pat Moore, or is this episode Iron City N Scale?
I would definitely hope that we would call it Iron City N Scale with just
that's what I'm
Brad
leaning.
and I there.
Yeah, that's what I'm
absolutely.
leaning. That's what I'm leaning towards. I think this discussion is going to center around Iron City N Scale and what that has meant.
Absolutely. I mean, Brad and I both have our own layouts and everything, but Iron City is a complete different community that I believe has a great story to it, and would like to tell it today. I think that would be I think it'd be a lot of fun to listen to. Like you said earlier, Brad and I's love story from model railroading. Brad gets a little nervous when I say that, but it is a great friendship story, and that it's just not the two of us. It's a community that we're growing.
Yeah. Can you just excuse us for a minute, Pat?
Okay.
Brad and I are going to talk for a minute.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Brad, let's just go over in the corner here.
Okay.
The guy's been on for 19 minutes, and the first time in his life he's been on the podcast, and it's like 19 minutes in, and he's already saying people are going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, is this guy just like, stand in front of the mirror in the morning and go, "You're awesome."
He's pretty confident, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we'll see how it goes. All right, let's go back.
Yep. All right, we're coming back.
Yeah, we're back now, Pat.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So okay. Does Iron City N Scale ever have any? Does anybody there have Rapido trains?
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's H-O, the fast track is Rapido.
Oh, that's sweet. I like that when the microphone goes in and out.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Love that.
This is an APB to all of the AML nation. Please, somebody fix his microphone. I'm begging you. There's got to be.
Sorry about that, Jason.
Yeah. Well, he was our sponsor, anyways.
Yeah, I just screwed that up too, didn't I?
So how did you guys meet?
So I'll start with how it all a long time ago, how it all happened. So right before COVID, I was transferred in the Army and was driving about 4 hours to work, coming and going. On a Monday morning, I would get up from Pittsburgh and drive across the state to the Army base I was working at, and I needed something to listen to. And so I started listening to the AML. I started digging through different things. I was listening to a couple different podcasts, and I found the AML, started listening to it. And it was right when you and Dave Abeleys were talking. I think COVID had just started, and you guys had a couple of, I think it was holiday story, where you guys were just together talking about the holidays and what friendship meant to you guys in the hobby. And I'm driving. I'm a lone wolf, right? I didn't belong to a club. I didn't know anybody. And it started coming to me like, I'm going to all these train shows by myself. I don't know anything about the hobby other than I built my own layout. How can I start talking to people, or how can I get involved here? Continue to listen to different podcasts, AML, of course, listening to that on these long trips. And I was like, okay, I need to find some kind of group. So I found it was called the Pittsburgh In Scale, and the Pittsburgh In Scale. this is where Brad and I meet. Brad's on posting, I'm posting. I don't realize that the Pittsburgh In Scale page is not an open group page. I was pretty new to Facebook about the groups and everything started coming on. It was actually someone's layout page. And Brad and I started posting on this page left and right and kind of taking over the page. And I started asking people if they wanted to meet up and talk online on this page and everything. And then I went back and read kind of like the bylaws of the page and realized it was someone's layout. And that was our friend Steve McHugh, which has a great
McHugh,
layout.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the funny thing there, sorry, Pat, but
go ahead.
When Pat first started, like I had been on Steve's page before Pat got there, and then all of a sudden Pat comes in and he's like, come on, everybody, let's see your layout videos this weekend. So I talked to Steve. I'm like, who is this guy? Is he the kind of guy that has frozen heads in his freezer or what? What's going on here? So that's kind of how we met with Pat having it. And, he was asking me specifically, I remember, to post layout videos, and my layout was probably at that time 75% blue foam, but that's how that came to be. Sorry, Pat, go ahead.
That's all right. So after that embarrassing moment of understanding that I just hijacked someone's website or Facebook page, I decided I was going to build a page. And when I originally built the page, I put my layout's name on the page, and I started recruiting people that I would see on different groups that were posting a lot or had like information. I would individually send a message out. Hey, I'm Pat Moore. I'm starting this page. I'm in the Pittsburgh area. Would you like to, come onto this page? And so, my goal at the time was, okay, if I can get 10 people to talk to me about model railroading, and maybe once in a while we could all meet up, that would be a huge win for me. And so it just started growing. And then I realized as the page started growing and Brad and I started talking to each other on the page that, okay, this is not going to be about my layout. This is this is bigger than that. And so I changed the name to Iron City to kind of go with the Pittsburgh theme. And I went with In Scale because that was the scale we were both working with, knowing that as this grew, I felt I could probably allow other people to get on here. But at the time, we're talking 10 people. I'm like, okay, if someone has AHO, I'm not going to tell them they can't be part of the Iron City In Scale. So we're starting to grow. And then we all decide we're going to finally meet. COVID now passes and the train shows open back up, and a train show in Pittsburgh opened up, and Brad and I met and hit it off, and we had a lot in common. We started talking about, okay, let's maybe do this in the future. Let's start building this page a little bit more. We started recruiting people. We'd see them on a page. Hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, are you going to be at the next show? We can meet up with you. And we started meeting people and started building this alliance, you might say, with other N-scalers in the Pittsburgh area. So then we start getting other ideas. And at that point, we realized that the page is becoming more than just 10 people. Now we're up to 30 people. Another 6 months, we're up to 50 people, and it just really starts growing. And I'm like, okay, I want this page. And Brad and I started talking. We want this page to be as open, as you say on the AML, transparent as possible. I want you to feel like that you're walking into a model hobby store, and we're the guys on the corner near the cashier saying, hey, what are you looking for? Are you looking for this? Oh, right over here. Or are you thinking about this idea? Oh, we're the ones that can help you. As I've told a lot of people, I'm a professional beginner. Every time I go to do a layout, I feel like I'm starting from scratch again, and I've lost all my talent that I didn't really have to begin with. So a lot of the page for me to get it started was me asking for help. Hey, what do you guys think about this? Or what are you going to do here with this mock-up? And starting to build friendships, and it just starts snowballing. Now you get 100 people, and you start going, okay, what are we going to do here? And we stopped becoming a page and started becoming more of a community of friends. And then we started meeting up at train shows and other events. And I was like, oh, we got something special here, because now we're into different, all kinds of different things. T-Track. We have clinics now. We have an Iron City showcase with videos. All of this is all voluntary. It just two or three guys that started this thing because they needed someone to talk to and be part of the hobby. So that was a really long answer to tell you how Brad and I met.
Yeah, it was.
but as I recall, for you, it all happened at a pretty good time, because, for a career military guy like Pat, that's a big part of his life for so many years. And, all of a sudden that's gone, and you need something to fill that void. And so that's one of the reasons why I think you were looking to connect with people, if I recall, wasn't it, Pat?
Absolutely. The other part was being in the military and being really isolated during COVID. We were on the base and very restrictive. So my family lived in Pittsburgh, and I lived out past the Harrisburg, Hershey area. Indian Town Gap is where the base was. And so I was living there by myself. And then if someone at the time, and I don't know if you remember, the restrictions were so bad that if you were exposed, you had to spend 2 more weeks by yourself. So I was exposed 3 times. So I spent 6 weeks by myself in this little cabin that I had on the base, and I had moved the layout there. And so I just started really reaching out to people on our page and started getting, people involved. And the thing about the page, it started coming alive. Like, the page now compared to where it was 3 years ago is not even the same page. I have people on there now that I have never met before that throw out research all the time, or we've met up with several people at one event and a whole nother group at another event. And they come to me and say, oh, I'm part of the Iron City N-Scale group. And they're in Maryland. We have people in England now. We have people in Texas.
Is there someone from Denmark, I think, or somewhere?
Denmark, yeah. We have a good Canadian connection. And the thing about the Iron City, here's a great example of the Iron City. So we had Mick Shea. It was an AML guy. Came down for Altoona. Never met him in our life. Never met him. Met up with him we met at Horseshoe Curve. Got to spend the morning there, and then we went to the show. I went to the show to set up. He went to the hotel. By Sunday, they brought trains, and they were running trains on our layouts at the Altoona show. there was no dues, there's no sign up, there's no, you had to be a member, for a month or two to be part of our layout. It's just, here's a sign up sheet today. We have openings at this time. Would you like to run trains? Now I've got a friend that I never would have met before, from Canada. Real great guy. So that's right there. That's Iron City in a nutshell. It's just an opening to anybody that wants to be part of it, and it allows you to not be afraid to be part of a group. Um, so that's the first part, I guess, with Brad and I.
So where did you meet? Where did you meet? Like, where did you guys meet?
So we actually met the first time. We met in Pittsburgh at a train show. It was called the Greenberg Show. They have them like 2 or 3 times a year.
Right.
And when we just said, hey, at 10:30, you want to meet up here at the front door?
Well, we met for breakfast.
Oh, that's right. We went to Bob Evans for breakfast. That's correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was the date?
Ooh, I always say that was was that the July or August show?
It was in July of what would it have been, 2021 or 2020? I think it was 2021, right?
Right.
Be 2022, I think, is when the show started again, wasn't it? Because COVID started in March of 20. Okay, so yeah, it could have been summer of 2021. Yeah.
And we got to meet Steve. I got to meet Steve when we hijacked his group from, and he was a great guy, and he's part of our group now too. And he has his page still, but he posts on our page. Great steel mill modeler, outstanding work for N-Scale.
Yeah, that's because we met for the first time on Saturday, I think it was, right?
That's right.
And I had met Steve on Friday, and we rail fanned the Union Railroad that Friday before the show. So yeah, that was the first time I had ever met Steve in person too. So
yeah. But what Brad didn't realize is that I had all these ideas that I wanted him to accomplish, and I had a grocery list. And so as we realized where each other lived, I said, "Hey, look, when we come back from the show, I actually live on the other side of the state during the week, and I have military duty throughout the week and sometimes on the weekends. We should meet in a central location and allow me to start giving you tasks to do." He didn't know that at the time. So
yeah, if I may quickly interject,
go ahead.
The saying, the scariest words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." I would add that when Pat Moore says, "I have an idea," that's right up there with.
Yeah, so I would ask Brad to meet at least once a month, and we'd have dinner at the Brad. What's that place called?
Front Street Station
Station,
Northumberland, and that's been much discussed on the podcast lately because that's the building that Scott Lister is making in N-Scale for us. So,
have you got it yet?
Not yet.
Yeah. Apparently this was going to take a week. I knew at the time that, it's going to take a week. He's still working on the thing.
Yeah.
See, this is why I didn't want to have him on this particular show, because it would just turn into me saying, "Yeah, you said to me a month ago it was going to take a week, and you're not even close to finishing it." It would be embarrassing for all of us.
We wouldn't want that. Would we?
No. You guys need to find out exactly when it was the date that you guys met. So because it'd be nice for you guys to exchange little somethings every year on your anniversary, because this will be your 3rd year coming up in July.
Yeah. That's right.
And you got to keep the romance alive.
You got to keep it alive. So I would always, I would always go to the when we have dinner, and I would always let Brad order, and it would be small talk at the very beginning. Just like any great date would be, and then at the end, I would always hit him with, "Hey, Brad, I saw this locomotive, and I have my own, I have my own railroad I'm trying to do. Do you think you could paint some of these for me?" And then, without even him saying yes yet, I was pulling down a bag and pulling out these locomotives and handing it to him and say, "Hey, do you think you could do this?" Or, "Hey, Brad, I've been working on the page, and what do you think about this showcase? Great. I'm going to have you do a showcase on this day. What do you think, bud?" And that's a type of give and take relationship that I think we have with each other.
Sounds like it sounds more like a take than a give.
I'm doing a lot of taking.
So have you been a model railroader all your life, like, since you were a kid kind of thing?
So yes and then no. So I started off my.
It's only yes or no.
That's right. You're right. It's a yes, but I had a pretty long break because of the military service. But my dad and I had a basement empire growing up in Huntington, West Virginia. We had chassis everywhere, big cold trains on our layout. My dad had a really nice HO layout, and then probably I'd say when I went off to college, took a little break, and was going through life. Didn't really think about it until I was getting back on a plane, just coming out of Iraq, and I was in Kuwait, and the chaplain hands me a pamphlet and says, "Hey, this has been a really tough deployment for everybody. Take a look at this, generic pamphlet that's going to fix your life when you get back home." And so I looked and I was going through it, and it's like, make new friends, run a marathon, and all on the bottom it said, pick up a hobby. And the little light bulb went off, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's been such a long time since I've done any model railroading. Really enjoy it. I want to get back into it. But boy, that was a culture shock, because the first show I got to go to was in Pittsburgh, was the World Greatest Hobby show, and it was Overload. And they have this new thing called DCC, and I was like, what in the world is this? And
So when would that have been? What year would that have been?
That I got back from Iraq in 2006. That show was in the winter of 2007.
Okay, so almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, almost 20 years ago.
And may I ask you how old of a gentleman you are now?
I'm 53 now, so I was in my mid 30s at the time.
Mid 30s, yeah. So you didn't have that much of a break in there.
No, probably from 18 to 35.
And did you never think of model railroading in that space of time?
My mom and dad had moved to a new home. The retired, the forever home they went to.
Right.
They tore down the layout, and everyone had grown, and my dad didn't put it back. He still has all the trains nicely put away, but he did not keep the layout up and running. And I think it's partly because all of us left town. My brother joined the Marines. I was in the Army, so we were all in Four Corners. So I don't think he felt like, hey, I'm going to put this back and start running.
So, Brad?
Yes, sir.
Was that a no or a yes?
It was a no. He did not think too much about model railroading, because
from 18 to 35. He didn't think of it at all.
Not very much, no. I don't know if I would go as far as not at all, but it doesn't sound like he put too much. I think the question I asked him was, so between the 18 and 35, did you not think of model railroading at all? I think that was the question, was it not? It was, yes.
Yeah. So was that a yes or a no?
That was a no.
Is your name Brad?
That was a no. Pat, it's tough being on this podcast. There's a lot of unwritten rules you got to be careful.
What is an unwritten rule about me asking a question? So from 18 to 35, did you never think of model railroading? Yes or no? What is that an unwritten rule? You got to answer the question. Is that an unwritten rule?
Well, it's tough.
Is this? Did you guys get together ahead of the time on this before this and discuss the way this was going to go? What is the unwritten rule? See, this is the problem I have, Pat. It's just constant.
I'm starting to realize why I was in the green room for a couple of years now.
And this is why I didn't bother remembering your name.
You're right.
Oh, yes.
So my question is, because I hate it when people say, if your dad had a good layout, a fun layout to operate and have, which is something that's unique to this. After post 2000, I feel like there's more and more people that come on the show, and there are more and more people available that say, my dad had a layout, and that's how I was introduced to model railroading. And so I feel like, okay, so your dad had a layout. You were a model railroader until you went off to college, but you never stopped being a model railroader, I don't think. I think once the bug has hit you, I've said before, it's like you can't, every time you try to get out, they drag you back in. right? And I mean, so
Absolutely, yeah.
and I hate it when people say, "Well, I took a break." You didn't take a break. You just weren't.
Right.
You were unable to because you were in a desert.
Right.
Trying to avoid what do they call them?
IEDs. Yeah.
IEDs. Yeah. So it's
yeah.
like I understand when you're trying to avoid an IED that you may not be thinking about, what's the best locomotive to get. But you never stop being a model railroader, I don't think.
I agree. I agree with you, Lionel, and that maybe get me on another show because I just agreed, but we don't know about that. But anyhow,
so let me try this. Let's try this again because Brad has led you to think that there's a series of rules that you have to follow. And I mean, apparently there's a fairly low bar at Iron City, but that's another subject for another day. So, did you not think of model railroading at all between the ages of 18 and 35?
I would say I did think about model railroading. I just didn't have the time or the ability to continue with the modeling. You're absolutely right.
Right. Yeah.
It was there.
Yeah, exactly. So then when you leave in Iraq, you get this notion of, hey, I should get back into the hobby.
Yeah. And at the time I was like, okay, moving a lot with the military, I can't do this, I'm not going to be able to do HO or O or, I'm going to have to go on a scale where I can tear things down, put them back up. And I decided, hey, I really enjoyed in scale as a kid. There was a couple of giant layouts that they would have in the shows in Huntington. I really liked the detail of in scale. And I was like, okay, let me go try this in scale thing out again and see what it's like. And like I said, I went to the wrong show. I'll tell you that, because it was a mountain of different information. And hey, this is the new stuff over here. And I'm like, I'm looking for old brands that don't exist anymore. And, and I know not to go to Tyco, right? I had that when I was a kid and that did not work. And I remember my dad always saying Atherin or Atlas, never heard of Kato before. Here's this big display of all these beautiful locomotives. And I'm like, oh, okay, what am I going to do here? So I went, with the basic starter kit, like you see anywhere online or anything, just a Bachmann circle with easy track, and that was the first layout since from 1989 to 2007. It was just a little Bachmann loop and got it started. And about 20 minutes into it, I was like, okay, we're gonna have to do better than this.
Okay,
we're gonna have to take it up another level.
So I want to talk about a different subject. I want to talk about Iron City. I mean, it's your life story is very interesting.
Yep.
And if you could see me, you wouldn't see me raise my eyebrows and roll my eyes.
I got
you. But okay, I'm interested in this. Around 2020. You started feeling like you wanted to get involved with other people.
Yes.
And so, I'm interested because I think there's a bazillion people out there like that. And I feel like, the iPhone was basically invented in 2007 and we've had the access. It's not even been 20 years since we've had smartphones and this kind of social media access. I mean, really, it's only been the way it continues to expand and grow. Did I tell you that this year, if you go to the Springfield show, you can find the Onondaga Cutoff listed in the list of exhibitors?
It's on the map, too.
Yeah, it's on the map. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm not sure I'm ever going to recover from that. But anyways, I digress. So anyways, I feel like this is a really important story that we need to tell about Iron City N scale and what it is and what it does. And I want to investigate more because if you came back in let's say for argument's sake, it was 2006. And so it was like the year before the iPhone was even released. So what do you feel like? What was the impetus? Because by that time it had been 13, 14 years that you had been interested in the hobby to a point where you could take the time to think about it and do it. And what was the impetus that made you feel like you got to find people?
I think it was the isolation, and I had success in my military career to give me the opportunity to be able to hobby a little bit more. I was, not, that captain that was running around all the time. I was I moved up in rank. I could have the time to do it. And you throw that on with a little bit of COVID and you're by yourself. I was like, hey, I really want to meet other people doing this. I can't be the only person in Pittsburgh running in-scale trains. With that being said,
Okay, let me ask you another question. Do you have other interests?
I do.
Okay, give me an example.
Oh, I fly fish. I'm a runner, mountain biking, pickleball. You name it. I'm probably doing it.
Right. You're an athletic guy.
Yeah, I used to be. I'm trying to get back into it. I had a little health scare, but
right.
That again with the isolation, I end up having a heart attack during COVID, and I couldn't even go out. Even even isolated me even more. Hey, you got to be very careful when you go out and do all this stuff. So I was, and I'll be honest with you, AML. I was listening to a podcast, and I never heard the word lone wolf before used. Like, I guess you were a lone wolf in the hobby. I'm like, what are they talking about, lone wolves? And I realized, I am a lone wolf. I wasn't doing anything with anybody, and I'd go to a show and walk around and not know one person.
Right. Okay. So hang on a minute. Brad and I just need to have a little chat.
Okay.
Brad, you need to go back to the corner.
Yeah, come on over to the corner.
Okay.
So he's one of these fitness guys?
He does do some running, yes.
Don't you find that to be just incredibly annoying?
Well, for me personally, I don't run unless there's something really big chasing me. So yeah.
Right, like a bear or something. He's like Chris Fitness. He's one of those guys.
Yeah.
If you ever go to Disney World the day on the Monday after their marathon, they're all running, they're all jogging around with their medals and everything. It's annoying. It really is annoying. Oh, great, you're thin, happy. Congratulations, I'm happy for you. You can run.
Yeah.
How many here's what I want to know from these people. How many pancakes can you eat?
Yeah, because we'd have them beat 6 ways to Sunday.
Exactly.
But how many pancakes and how much bacon?
Exactly. What do you do? What are runners doing for the economy? We are giving farmers a reason to continue with their vocation.
We're even saving the environment, because when you eat that and gain weight, that's carbon sequestration right in your midsection.
Exactly. So. Exactly. Yeah. All right, let's go back.
All right.
Okay, so I think it's really, really important, because this is kind of this is what's become important to me with the podcast is the same thing that Iron City became. It became a gathering place for people. And I mean, it's I think it's important because we're going to help other people. I still feel like there's a lot of people out there that are, kind of shy, don't want to, are afraid to get involved. And that's what we try to make the AML. We got one simple rule. Don't be a butthead. If you're not a butthead, you're more than welcome. Like, come on in, we don't care, whatever. Even if you're an N scaler, we don't care.
Lionel, we've been very open about the Iron City is, you can post, there's no one telling you can't post on our page. If you've got an idea or a thought, or you want to show a video of your layout, or if you want to ask someone a question, you're going to have the ability to do that if you're a beginner or if you're an expert. We have guys that are going to have been or will be in different magazines. We've had guys that have their own YouTube page, and we have people that just put a piece of plywood down last week and put up a track and said, "What do you think?"
Right.
And the folks, the great thing about the Iron City so far, we're infants. We've only been doing this for about 4 years, but the great thing so far is the person that is going to be on the magazine cover has no problem talking to the guy with the piece of plywood saying, "Hey, great idea. Have you, just remember to put that track back maybe another inch or two so it doesn't fall off on the floor and you break your locomotive."
Right.
That's the type of feedback we're getting to folks. No, not, "Hey, that looks really, that looks silly. Why would you do that? Why you spend your money on this or whatever?"
Well, and I think we
don't go that way.
I think we're on the verge of making the hobby a way better place to be than it has been in the past, because there's more and more people that are that I feel are being welcomed in. like you say, whether they're on the cover of a magazine or they have a piece of 4x8 plywood and they're just running trains around in a circle. It's like I always say, both the thing that Wayne Gretzky and I have in common, and we're both hockey players. Now he's just way better at it than me, but we're both hockey players. I played hockey as a kid. I had aspirations, and we're both hockey players. He's just way better at it. There's always, every activity in the world works down. So my question, I guess what I wanted to ask you is, when you decided to reach out to to try to find other model railroaders, were you doing that with your other interests, or were you doing that with fly fisher guys, or
not as much? I went head first into model railroading, and just was fascinated with how far it came by then. It was, DCC. It was people using laptops. It was people using their phones at shows and stuff. And I was like, I need to understand this a lot more. And like I said, a lot of it was me wanting to open the page up so I could get information, and ask people for advice.
Okay, but don't get ahead of ours. Don't get ahead. I'm still. Because weren't you, Brad? Then you basically said to me you were a lone wolf too.
Oh yeah, yep, I was.
And so
we both came out of that lone wolf thing at just about the same time, 2018, 2019. Yeah,
and it was. I'm sorry, Alan. Go ahead.
And sorry. Yeah. You're starting to kind of irritate me, Pat.
I knew this was coming. Back to the green room.
Yeah. Obviously, you're used to irritating people.
Unfortunately.
So, Brad, you were a model railroader as a kid, right?
I was, yes.
Yeah. And did you have any kind of a gap, or were you always a model railroader?
I had a slight gap, not as many years as Pat did. My brother and I did it together from the time we were wee little up until our teenage years, when we discovered cars and sports and girls. So probably from the time I was maybe 16 to 22, right. I would say I didn't do much model. Now I did have a 4x8 that I would set up around Christmas time.
Okay.
Every year, even through those years, but there were years when we just set it up and there it is. And,
sure.
Didn't. So I would say it was a small gap, but as soon as I graduated from college and got my job and had my own home, I started building layouts again, and gradually, got bigger from the 4x8 to, I think this one that I'm building now is the 5th layout that I've built.
Okay. So what was it that prompted you to go fishing around on the internet and find this first particular page where you and Pat introduced yourselves to each other?
It was COVID. We were locked down, and of course, the schools shut down. So I was just looking for stuff to do. I had been on Facebook because I have nieces who live in Nebraska. My sister and her husband live in Nebraska. So I got on Facebook, just to see what they were up to and what activities. But then I noticed that Steve McCune had a neat web page, and Steve started doing just short live videos, 10 minutes, 15 minutes long back during COVID. And I thought, this is cool. I can, watch these, gives me something to do. And the thing that I discovered then is, as soon as you see somebody else do something, it inspires you to get off your duff and get busy on your layout. And that's been one thing, I think, getting back to Iron City, that has just kind of taken on a life of its own. One guy posts something, and then 5 other guys, draw some kind of inspiration for that and go do something to their layout and post it. And it just kind of mushrooms. So that it was just COVID and looking for ways to keep myself entertained, during the lockdown, that led me onto the social media part of model railroading.
Because I think this is a really, really important part of what the podcast has become and what it could be in the future, is this ability to help people find each other. I mean, there's so many friendships. I mean, I think I'm pretty sure I've said it before on the podcast. I know I have in different ways, but there are so many friendships that have been spawned from the podcast. And way deep down inside my conscience, I'm like, I'm kind of jealous when Peter Borchard is talking to Scott Lister, or Scott Lister is talking to Dave Abeles, and I'm not part of that conversation. But in reality, obviously, you can't be part of every kind of conversation, and the bonus of it is these folks are all talking to each other and connecting with each other, and you know that it's just a simple matter that if you want to be part of the conversation, you just say so. And
yeah, that's right.
Right, and I think I think what fascinates me about your guys' particular story is you kind of stumbled into this, but it was created from the fact that you guys were looking for friendship or fellowship.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think this is a really important turning point in the hobby. I feel like the hobby has a whole new energy. It's got a whole new direction. I feel it's going to become much more mainstream as the years go by. And I think it's the Iron City N Scale Group is a classic example of what we can expect in the future. And
Lionel, I would agree 100%. And, like, I'm not really, now that we've established ourselves and we're doing these shows and everything, it's not about the model railroading. I'm more worried about where's everybody going to meet for breakfast and when we're going to have dinner together, because that is where our friendship is. Those are the memories that I have of everybody.
Right.
Is that time together. I mean, or, now it's nothing for a few folks to say, hey, I'm going to this hobby store on this date. Who wants to meet for breakfast? Or who wants to go afterwards for dinner or something? We did a holiday crawl. This is our third year doing the holiday crawl, and we all just met up. And sometimes some people, it was the first time I ever met them, had breakfast and just traveled parts of Pittsburgh to watch open houses, train open houses. That had nothing really to do about the trains as much as it was the friendship. And excited to see people that you might have seen in 3 or 4 months or even a year sometimes. But you've been talking to them at least once a week on Facebook with the group page.
Right.
So,
I think there's going to be not new problems, new things to solve, because when you did the Pittsburgh holiday crawl, did you go, Brad?
Nope, I wasn't able to get out to Pittsburgh.
Right. So I feel like the next great frontier for this is we don't want to go full circle and go back to alienating people, because, the Iron City N Scale is really centered around Pittsburgh.
Right. Yeah, it's not. It really isn't. It just happens to have.
Hang on a minute. I'm still talking. I can feel my lips move.
Yeah. Back to the green room. Got it.
Now you see, you made me lose my train of thought. No, but I feel like the one thing I have not started to do, because I just am terrified of hurting people's feelings, is I would love to have, say, once a year, it's an operating weekend in Dallas, or it's an operating weekend in, my buddy Mike out there in Erie, Pennsylvania. I'd love to have some AMLers go there and operate his layout. But I'm afraid of, if I ask this person, that person's going to be disappointed. I mean, it's a real concern for me. And I think you guys, whether you realize it or not, I realize you guys, the two of you put together a real brain trust. But
yeah, that's it.
So it's I think we need to. This will not be the only time we talk about Iron City N Scale, because I think it is a classic example of the future. And lately, I've been talking about. At some point, I remember Gordie Robinson, the president of the NMRA, and I remember I think the AML Nation helped him become president of the NMRA, actually. And anyways, at one point he talked about having a virtual region, which to me I think is an absolutely fabulous idea. You can be in a region, you can be in the NMRA, because people constantly talk about, well, our region is so big, it's hard for us to meet because, one guy's 200 miles away and another guy's 100 miles in the other direction, and we get 12 guys out and I'm thinking, man, that is so old school. We are on the verge of changing the face of model railroading forever. So that's why that's why I'm really interested in this whole. I mean, Iron City N scale is, has grown like a weed, really.
Yeah, the last year is just amazing. I think we went from 250 to, I think we're at 460 today.
478.
478. See that it jumped. Even to the point where I had to talk to some of the folks that are helping me with the page and say, hey, look, I really like to individually welcome people to the page, really make them feel like a member. Hey, you're going to get an individual post with your name on it. Hey, we're going to welcome you. Unfortunately, we're doing 6 or 7 a day now. I can't even keep up with it. And so I said, okay, we're going to have to do New Member Monday or something, just to get all these folks on here. It's really growing. And, you always have growing pains too. You don't want to repeat yourself and get stale with the page. And that's why I'm glad, this community is allowed to do what they want on it. No one's being told, hey, only certain people can post here or anything like that. So I'm really happy where it's going. But like you said, everything grows and to the point where you're like, okay, where is this going? And I really don't know yet, but it's a lot of fun and meeting new people and having everyone feel like a member of this group, I think is huge. And
we just had our first, well, not our first, but our first in a while, coffee and trains Saturday morning at Iron City. It's just a Zoom meeting of guys getting together, and Marcus Newbacher joined us for the first time, Lionel. He actually had his phone down in his layout room, so we got to see his layout, which is really nice. And Pat, of course, jumped right on it and said, you got to do an Iron City showcase. So we're trying to get that in the works too. But that's just the kind of the way it happens.
Yeah, like I think there's going to be, as much as, this is how you hook up your ditch lights. I think now there's going to be room for, okay, what's the best way to show your layout on the internet, on the Iron City showcase, right?
Right.
Yeah. Right. We had Scott Lister the other day do it. And I mean, Scott is not really, Scott's a great guy. We all agree about that. But he was concerned that he was doing it right.
Right. And I was going to say, Lionel, you don't need to purchase anything. Like it's your iPhone or your Android. You hit the Facebook Live and start walking around the layout and talk. Hey, this is what I did here. This is hey, have you ever heard of this? And and that's it. I mean, there's no production to it. There's no, and I know a lot of people frown on that. And like, hey, if you want, you want to go to a website to, like YouTube or something, it has to be professionally made. But that's not what we're about. It's more of, hey, I can't, like you said earlier, I can't go to this operating session. So why don't you just hit the Facebook Live and do an operating session or a tour? And now instead of just a guy down the street being next to you, watching you go through the layout, you got a guy in Canada, you got a guy in England, you got a guy from someone from Florida, we're all together, going through their layout and they're showing us around. And I think it's my favorite thing with Iron City is the showcases. I enjoy the heck out of them.
But I think one of the things too that's attracting is it's a come as you are organization. Yeah. Like you were saying before, you can be somebody who's been published, you can be somebody who's been in Model Railroader, N-Scale magazine, or you can be somebody who's never snapped 2 pieces of sectional track together. All are welcomed, and everybody is valued, which is what I like about the group.
And when we did Scott's showcase the other day, we did kind of jump out of our norm and went with S, but everyone I talked to was like, that was great seeing another form of the hobby to see how someone else is doing it. N-scale guys are not going to have windows that work on their layout, but it was great to see Scott's ideas and his, layout. I know he says it's not finished, but it looked finished to me. It looked great. And
let me let you in on a little secret. Scott's not well.
I wanted Scott to have a warning, like, don't try to build in-scale buildings with opening windows and shutting windows. You will
Yeah.
go insane. Some kind of warning label. This is for S only.
Ever since I backed this bus into the garage, he's been off kilter.
But
okay, so let me ask you this question then: do you see the future of the Iron City N scale becoming the name changing again, and it's becoming Iron City Model Railroading, or or is it going to be that was the name, that was the original name of the corporation, so it's always going to be Iron City N scale, but in fact, it's Iron City Model Railroading?
So that's an outstanding question.
Hold on.
You just stepped in.
I stepped on that one.
So were some of the questions not so outstanding?
No, this one was just something I've been thinking about. So they've all been great questions.
Right.
This one is just a little bit more intriguing.
This one, you just woke up.
So there is this HO community in Pittsburgh that I haven't even touched the surface with. There's guys doing operation sessions all throughout the Pittsburgh area. HO is king here, and I know there's a lot of modelers out there. And we're starting to see a few of those folks join our page too. But it's a total different group. And like you said, Lionel, I'm not sure I want to go there yet, but I think it's probably, it seems like we're going in that direction. But we also have a lot of branches. We have our T-track modelers, which I know I don't want to go down that road with T-track, but but it's almost like a branch of the Iron City. Hey, we got another group here that's doing this. We got guys who are just online. We have folks that want to meet us for different events. And sometime at the shows, we say, hey, don't worry about bringing an actual kit or model. Just bring your iPhone, and we'll get you running trains within 5 minutes. Come over here, sign up. Don't be afraid. We are going to get you to run a train, and then once you're hooked, next thing you know, you're going to bring your own module, and you'll be right with us. But
the crazy thing about that, it just dawned on me. One of our main guys, in fact, the guy that Lionel designed and had produced our new T-shirts, Gary Fujak. He's not even on Facebook, but I don't even know how we got hooked up with him. He's our main showrunner now.
Yeah, he was at the Altoona show and saw us, and that's another thing. I think we have a few of those now that it's by email only.
So how do they find out what's going on?
We copy a lot of those Facebook page information and just put it into an email and send it out.
Okay, sort of like where you shared that post by Dave about how the Onondaga Cutoff is in the program this year, and its table is shown on the map.
Something like that. Maybe not in that detail, but hey, this is going to happen on this day, or hey, and then
honest to God, it was like being pecked to death by a duck.
I would think that probably wasn't pleasant, was it?
Right.
Well, it wasn't unpleasant, but it was like there were moments where I'm going, what? It's like having a puppy. Dave is like a puppy. Right? You can't help but love it. But for God's sakes, sleep, take a nap.
No, I will say this about Dave. That's Brad and I also, when we first started talking to each other, we would text each other, hey, is Dave Abley's going to be on tonight? Because he was at the time the only one like posting live videos of a layout during the COVID time and right after, and so I haven't missed one of those in years. I always try to catch them when I can. I really enjoyed that, and some of that rubbed off on me, especially the showcase. I was like, well, if Dave Abley's can do that, I could probably do it. So, funny thing happened. I tried to do a couple of these operation sessions by myself, and I was like, oh, this is not going to work. You cannot hold a camera, talk, and run trains all at the same time. First derailment that ends that. So I was like, okay, that is a production. I didn't realize how much goes into just trying to do a Facebook Live when you're doing operations. That is a whole different subject.
So then he got the idea for me to do it instead.
Remotely.
Yeah.
So,
So we do them on my layout now, but I end up being alone in the basement trying to keep up with everything.
yeah, have you noticed that you seem to be here, do this, here, do that? It's actually, you know what? It's like our pizza. Oh, that's the other thing. That's big news. You know what I decided? Our Saturday night pizza party. Are you coming to the Saturday night pizza party, Brad?
Yeah. Yep.
I think
if I'm invited, I just need to make
everybody's
sure
in. Are you a butthead?
I try my best not to be.
Then you're invited.
Okay.
But I think I'm going to call it the AML dance party.
Cool.
Yeah, kind of a Dick Clark kind of a feel to it.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Brad, do not videotape that.
You don't want to see my dance move, Pat? Is that what you're
no, please.
Okay. All right.
Are you going to Springfield, Pat?
Unfortunately, I can't make it to Springfield this year, but it is on my list.
Have you
never been?
You've never been?
Never been.
Why can't you go this year?
Oh, I've got some other obligations.
Like what? Like what could you possibly have to do? Brad was for a long time talking about it was hard for him to get the time off, but he managed to figure it out.
I know he's going to be my surrogate for this year, and I'm hoping to go next year.
Yeah. Well, then you got to go next year.
Right. I got to mark it down. I got to be there.
Yeah, like it's like what? Maybe a 6 to 8 hour drive. If I can go if I can get a table for Dave Abeley's and the Onondaga Cutoff, you can at least go.
I definitely will try to be there next year.
Okay. Don't you love these guys? I'm going to try. What is? Yeah, it's like he can go to the Altoona, he can go to the Carnegie show. So are we basically here? Is if it's within a 2 hour drive of Pittsburgh, you'll go? Is that what we're talking about?
No, I'm trying to make it to Tomstock. So, that's a little bit more than 2. That's 4. So doubled it.
Have you thought about having a website?
I have not thought about having a website.
Okay. I'm just interested in, like you've created you've started this. You guys are very excited about what it's become. Right. So I'm fascinated. Like I said, I think the NMRA would be doing themselves a great service if they had a virtual region, because I think the NMRA is, pardon me for going off topic, but I think this is part of the topic. I think this is the point I'm trying to make. This is part of the topic. The world is changing, and if you're not going to change with it, you're going to be left behind. And I'm an old guy, and old guys don't like change. But I do actually. I like staying current as current as I can. So I mean, like I think what you're doing is creating a new version of the NMRA, which is what the AML Nation has done. It's a new version of the NMRA, right? It's like this gathering place. And I mean, we're even to the point where we have, basically conventions. Tomstock was basically a convention. It was like a 3-day convention, and with a good turnout and tons of fun, and so I mean, I think that's what we're doing, and I don't know. I'm fascinated by this story of you poured some water on the Iron City N scales, and poof, here you are 4 years later.
It's always like, I was telling Brad the other day, it's always like we try to take it to the next level not on purpose. There was no meeting or anything that said, hey, we should do clinics. It was just people kept asking the same question on our page. And I was like, well, we've got the experts that can do this. Why don't we just put a Facebook Live together or a recording and post it and say, hey, on this date, anybody wants to come look at this clinic? I mean, we got guys doing DCC EX. We had Brad he put a decoder in. We're trying to do some more basic stuff. We kind of got up there in working on JMRI and some other things. I was like, okay, let's try to bring that back a little bit. Maybe some basic 101 stuff. And I know it's out there, on YouTube, or you can go to a website. But if you're part of a community and you're like, oh, it's one shop right here, I can just click onto this. It doesn't cost me anything, and I got a guy that's just talking to me about, hey, did you think about, putting down your track? This is the kind of glue you need, or something like that. We're doing that right now, and I'm really happy with that too, because it was something that we can share. You know what I mean? Like you're just sharing the hobby with somebody. You're not you're not asking for anything in return. You're like, hey, this information is here for you to use. If you want to use it, great. If you don't, we understand that too, and we can go on to the next clinic. So Lionel, I get where you're going there. Like, hey, there has to be something else. Not saying that you don't want to be a member of a club or organization, but with everything online now, it's so easy to click on, and now just within 5 minutes, you click onto this group, you're going to have information right at your fingertips.
And I just had a really good point. Oh yeah. No, I can't remember what it was. I thought, boy, can you imagine what this show would be like if it was professional? It'd be freaking awesome. I bet you guys have never heard of Hindsight 2020, a virtual RPM series.
I don't
think I ever have heard of that.
No, these are a bunch of guys that basically do the same thing, but they run they have this on December 2nd. They have a day's worth of clinics, and it's a virtual RPM meet where they have clinics, and it's called Hindsight 2020, and they're quite successful, and they've been doing it for a while now. That's what I was going to say. Do you have a sense of the responsibility you've taken on?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. As we get bigger and we have these other events going on now, not just online, when we start doing things physically in person, we have a new not an obligation, more of an image that we're trying to portray also, and that is openness. And we're about to do a bunch of shows this summer, and of course we talked about the Carnegie Science Center with children being there and everything. We're trying to showcase the hobby and be good ambassadors to it. And when you're bringing people on you've never met before, and you're meeting online, and then you go in public, you just know you're kind of not gambling, but you're kind of saying, okay, I'm putting my trust in you to come to this event and be part of our organization without any rules. There's no president. There's no fees. But when you start doing stuff in public, you kind of get concerned about, okay, are we putting off the best image, or are we open? Does someone that doesn't know anything about the hobby feel comfortable walking up to the Iron City table and be able to talk to us about what kind of training is that, or what kind of system are you using to run, or what app are you using on the telephone to run that train? That's really cool. How do you do that? Now, I want us to be that type of organization. Like, not only can you look at the app, I'm going to hand you the phone and you're going to run the train for the next 10 minutes or whatever. That's the type of organization we want to be. I don't want to say organization because we're not organized. We're just a group of guys. We're just a group of guys that post things on a page and show up at train shows and put stuff together. But there is this undertone, though, of organization. We do have, we have Kevin Squire that kind of puts our T track shows together. We have someone that we actually sometimes do accept show money that we get for being at certain shows, and we have our great treasurer that took on the responsibility of that without any bylaws or anything. We have Mike DeCinzi. He handles the money. We have someone that helps me approve. Tom, he helps me approve all our members, and Brad does too, instead of a couple other people, Richard. So we have kind of a rough organization of folks that help me run this. And so there is this obligation now of, okay, what have you started here? And if the page stopped tomorrow, would all this organization stop, or would it continue to grow?
Yeah, because you can't ignore the fact that somebody has been somebody, and it sounds to me like you've been the guy that started it. It's like the AML Nation. I mean, you take Springfield, you take the AML Nation, for example. At Springfield, if it wasn't for Scott Lister and Kevin Marks and Tracy Boyd, there would be no pizza party on Saturday night. Because, you get overwhelmed after a while. The thing gets so big. Without Tom Jacobs, there would be no Tom Stock. And I mean, he puts in a ton of work to make that work. So, I mean, the thing ends up becoming, you have to have people that are willing to do stuff. And so, I mean, it's a new world that I'm fascinated. Obviously, you can tell. I'm sure everybody can tell. I'm fascinated by this because maybe it's a simple case of in 1970, I met Lynn Westcott, who was the editor of Model Railroader. And, you can imagine back in 1970, there was nothing. There was no, it was all in the magazine, and you'd meet, you got the chance to meet Lynn Westcott, and he was the editor of Model Railroader, and you thought, holy mackerel, and now it's much more approachable. It's much more open. But, the NMRA constantly struggles to get members, and you guys aren't struggling to get members. You kind of guys are going, holy crap, here comes the tsunami, run for the hills.
It is overwhelming when you go from 50 to 460 within a couple of years. You're kind of like, okay, and like every organization or group or page, you're going to get someone who might post once a year or read a post twice a year, and then you have someone that's on there 5 times a week. It's okay. It doesn't hurt or help. It just is. And when it starts running itself, which it is now. If I didn't post on there for a week, there'd be no problems. There'd still be plenty of posts on there. I just kind of trigger things. I try to spark the week's conversation. I try to post, I believe, what is interesting to get the conversation started.
Well, sure. You take the fans page of the AML. I mean, it's got 2,000 or 2,200 members, 2,300 members. And, somebody's posting every day there's, 2 dozen or 3 dozen posts on the thing, and it just gets more and more interesting,
But if I could go back to the friendship, that is, I can't put that in words at all. I mean, I have met so many new people and have so many friends now that I talk to, and Lionel, just like the show, it's not just about model railroading. It's about your life and what people are doing, and I must have texted 30 people Merry Christmas, privately and on the page. And, I have this group of friends now that, I'll get a text out of nowhere. Hey, are you thinking about doing this week? Or, hey, did you see this? Or, Brad and I are calling each other. I would never had that if it wasn't for this page. I have true friendship now.
Yeah. That may be what I'm saying. And I think it's really important for you guys to get it right, because whether you'd want to admit it or not, you're the first wave, right? We're the first wave. Anybody that's created, the AML Nation is coming up to its 10th anniversary this August. And I mean, anybody that's created something like this, like the AML Nation or what you've created, we're the first wave. We're the first people that have done it. And, going forward, it's a really important job to continue to do it right, because you're making connections, and it's not just the kind of friends that you have, it's the friends that other people have gotten, and the good feelings that they get. And I just feel like I think it's a really important topic, and it's something that needs to be discussed at great length.
And I agree. And like you said, not only do we have the people in the Pittsburgh area, like you said, but now we have groups of other model railroaders, maybe let's say South Carolina or whatever, and their 4 or 5 friends are talking about the Iron City, and they join. So now you got this other group of guys that are now getting ideas from this group of misfits from Pittsburgh, and you're looking at their ideas. You're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Look at what they're running down here, and it's like, oh, I know Bill or I know Jeff over here. I'm like, oh, they're all connected. I didn't know that. So you're getting many groups joining our group too, and I think that's pretty neat. Because we're finding out that there's more than 10 in-scale modelers in the country, which I didn't know. The craziest thing about the Iron City since I've been on here is just these videos that come out of the woodwork, and the guy has a shed in the back of the house, and it's 3 levels up, and he's got 1,000 cars on the railroad, and you're like, where did these guys come from? I never saw them in a magazine. I've never heard of them.
Yeah.
And they're just coming out of everywhere, and you're like, oh man, this is great.
We just had that. We just had one of those happen today with
today.
Ron from Florida.
Who's that?
His Ron Knob, his name is. He has been a member of Iron City, but today he took a chance and stepped out and made a video and posted it, and Pat said, "Oh, your layout's nice. You have to do a showcase." And Ron said, he said, "I'm an older guy. I don't know much about technology." And but it just happens like that all the time now. All of a sudden, somebody that's been a member but hasn't really posted anything, all of a sudden will wham, there's a nice layout. another nice layout.
And a 14 by 14 shed with a 2-track main line, point to point or continuous loop, 8.5 scale miles, 3 levels, no helix. Like, that looks pretty cool to me.
Right. And I would never know that, how would you talk to that person or know that they even had that? That's what's amazing to me. It's a lot of fun to see other people's work.
Yeah.
It does make you want to go out and take a hammer to your layout. But after you take a pause and go, okay, that was great work. Okay, now I know, I see something I want to use, or hey, that's a good idea. I think that I want to do that. I just am so happy to see people share their work on our page.
So when are you going to share your work on the page? What's your layout?
Funny.
What's your layout like?
So I did share at the beginning. It was mostly Brad, myself, and a couple other people. So I started backing off a little bit because I was like, all I'm doing is sharing mine. But mine is a freelance that Brad and I came up with, an idea. It's called the West Pin. It's basically 1970 to the early 80s. And my concept is that the Conrail didn't get all of Western PA, that West Pin was able to do a small regional railroad from basically Wheeling, basically Weirton, West Virginia, into Pittsburgh, with other divisions into Erie, Central PA, and into the Lehigh Valley. That's the layout. The layout's basically a C, and it was modular because of me being in the Army and moving so much. There used to be this advertisement on the back of Model Railroad magazine called Cam Connects. So I got with him. He was in Texas, and I called him. I'd saved up for years and said, "Hey, I'd like for you to help me design and build these modules. Because I'm in the military, I need to take these down and be able to move them around." I've moved this layout I have now 5 times, so I'm kind of used to it now. It's finally in its final home. Once I retired, we found a place and got our final home here. But I run Chessie, I run N&W, but Brad helped me with the paint scheme and put this together when I have this West Pin. Now the West Pin, it has its own page, and it's only got like 50 members on it right now. But and then Brad has also painted locomotives that have West Pin on them. He runs them on his layout too. So we're kind of doing this joint venture on this West Pin page. Again, never would have done this West Pin page if it wasn't for Brad, saying, "Hey, let's take this idea and go with it." And so we, last year it's 1 year old. It's a year old now, and we're enjoying this too. We're got this new adventure going.
That's another one of the branches off the Iron City, really, is what it is.
Right. Yeah. And we enjoy that.
Why do you keep sending your locomotives to Brad to be painted? Why can't you learn to airbrush yourself?
I probably will. And I am learning every day. But I don't think I am not there yet in the hobby. It's really funny. I am like, I want to be there, and I'm having people teach me stuff every day. I'm just not there yet, but I'm going to be as I get more time now.
So exactly where is there? You do realize that if you're going to come on here, I'm going to beat you like a rented mule, right?
There is the professional. As I said earlier today, I'm a professional beginner.
I
know everything. I think I know a lot, but I'm still learning, which is great. And that's another reason we have the page, is to learn and to learn ideas from everybody. But Brad and I have put this other adventure together, and I think we enjoy that. But Iron City is running so much now that I sometimes forget I have a web layout page for myself too.
So, so some of these locomotives that you send to Brad, are any of them from Rapido Trains?
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
You're better at that than Kelly.
Oh man, poor Kelly.
But that doesn't mean you haven't moved ahead in the pecking order. It's Kelly is still Kelly. We don't.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't figured out exactly where you fit in yet, Brad.
Yeah, I know. That's okay.
I know.
Yeah.
Other than this whole thing where I think you know how to work the microphone. You're just doing that.
See, I suspect that you're taking control over my microphone just to screw with me. That's what I think's going on.
I think by now everybody knows that there's nothing I enjoy more than poor quality audio.
Yeah. Oh,
I'll have to write that down.
Okay, so your guys' assignment going forward is to pay attention, because I love the philosophy of the hobby, as you can tell when Dave, Uncle Dave, and I do a podcast. Oh, and did I mention to you guys that Uncle Dave now is the Onondaga Cutoff is now listed in the Springfield list of exhibitors, and it's on the map?
I believe I saw that.
Yeah. Have you guys ever been pecked to death by a duck?
Never.
Not yet.
So your guys' job going forward for the AML Nation is to pay attention. We're gonna talk about the philosophy and what is being created by the New World, because whether you want to admit it or not, the Iron City N scale is a classic example of how this hobby is changing. I mean, there are so many people whose lives have been enriched by the Iron City N scale. And just like the AML Nation, and just like there's other groups out there that are doing the same thing. There's so many people whose lives are being enriched by taking the chance. You know, like you hear people say, "Oh, I don't like being on social media," and blah blah blah. You know, it's just like everything. There's bad sides to it and good sides, but I think social media, the good side far outweighs the bad if you use it properly. You know,
and Lionel, you're right on that, because there was a little bit of a fear factor when you're inviting people you don't know to join something that you love so much, and are they going to be critical of you? Are they going to be helpful? And so far, knock on wood, we have had a group of modelers and beginners and like you said, experts that all feel like they want to be part of this, and that you can't create that. That's got to be, you can't plan that out. It is what it is. It comes naturally to people, and as long as you're getting those type of folks to be a part of your page, it's so enjoyable. It has made the hobby. It has become another hobby within the hobby.
Exactly. That's a great way of putting it. It's become a hobby within the hobby. Like lots of times people will ask me, "Are you going to build another layout?" My answer was, if I was to build anything, which I want to build, it would be, an S-scale shelf layout, because I want to have some place to put these great locomotives and cars that Scott has built me, and I would love to do. If I have a dream of model railroading, it would be to build an S-scale shelf layout that is of enough quality to have it featured in a magazine, to have it published in one of the magazines. But on the other side of that coin, I'm having so much fun with the podcast. It's kind of like, well, if that never happened, well, that's okay, because the podcast is really the most fun of all. And it sounds like this is what you guys have created with Iron City N scale.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of folks that are going to be able to do showcases and to do other things with us. And you don't have to have a layout that looks like it's going to cover a magazine. I mean, it can be completely started, and you could do a showcase, because what we're doing now on some of the showcases in their second year now, we're coming back to that modeler and saying, okay, where are you at now? Where's your progress? And then here's all the live feed and everyone's text. Hey, look what you did here. Oh, you added a bridge. Oh, you painted this. It just gives people encouragement. Like, okay, I've put myself out there, and now I'm getting this a group of folks to reply to me or to go on this journey with me with the layout that I'm building. And we have several folks like that. You don't have to have magazine quality stuff to be part of the Iron City N scale. It is nice to see those too, and we don't reject those folks, but it is nice to have that person that for example, I'm never going to be on the cover of Model Railroad magazine. I'm just not. But I've been able to do some showcasing. I've been able to do some videos, and that's good enough for me. That's not something I need, but it is. Hey, I'm willing to put my stuff out here. Take a look.
But wouldn't you
Yeah.
say, okay, I never say never about anything, but wouldn't you say that this has become more than you ever you're now having more fun with model railroading than you ever could have imagined?
It motivates me every day. I mean, I get up in the morning, I take a look at the page. The page is so active because we do a question of the week on Monday. We do a cover photo contest once a month. I mean, we do all these things just to do it, just to keep the juices going, And so now, if I'm doing a cover, okay, if I'm a member, maybe I want to jump out there and do the contest for the cover photo for the month of February.
All right.
There's nothing to it. You just take a picture and post it.
Okay, I got one last question for you. Then we're going to stop because we're going to do this. We're going to do this again. Who's your Kelly?
Who is our Kelly? Oh, Brad. Who is our Kelly?
I'm thinking there's got to be one.
Yeah, I know that Kevin and Brad have this love-hate relationship with hooking up the layout, and now they think they're a pit crew. So I think those two going at it is worth admission to any of the shows that we go to. If you can get there early and watch these two guys go at it.
For my buddy Kevin, I do have to come to our defense. Have we ever failed to have that layout up and running before or by the time the show started, though? even though sometimes we about half choke each other to death in the process.
Lionel, they've got a shot clock up and they're timing each other trying to put this stuff together. It's brilliant,
So what are you doing? Just standing there eating donuts or something?
Well, if I'm there, I normally show up when the trains are running. Like, okay, let me throw my stuff on. Let's go.
He's got that officer thing down. He has an uncanny knack for showing up right as all the hard work is over and the fun starts. That's when you usually see him for the first time.
That's the coolest thing. That's the coolest thing I remember. After World War II, my dad stayed in the militia with the Toronto Scottish Regiment, and he was a sergeant major or a captain or something. He was, more than a sergeant, less than a major. And but I can remember being a little kid, and we'd be going along, and all of a sudden, some young guy would come up and start saluting, and yes sir, no sir, and I'm thinking, the hell is he? Why is he acting like this?
Lionel, there's one topic. I don't want to go off our topic because Iron City is very important, but it's something that you've touched on a little bit, and I hope you continue that. And that is veterans in model railroading. There's a lot of veterans in model railroading. It gives us a release to go to. It relaxes you. It gives you focus, especially for a lot of those combat vets that are getting a little older, like me now. And I think that's a whole nother part of modeling that I think we haven't touched on, because you'll meet so many people that say, "Hey, I was a veteran,"
Yeah, like let's save that for another
Absolutely.
discussion.
Yeah,
and because that's, whether you like it or not, I'm going to make you guys. It's important. I don't think you guys are getting it as quite as much as I'm trying to say it, but it's important what you guys are doing. And yeah, that whole veteran thing would be great. I think that's what I think. I think there's a lot of people that would think of themselves as professional beginners, right. and they're not. They're people that just love the hobby. There's something about this hobby, and I'm making it Pat. I'm making it your responsibility to help me find out what it is about this hobby that draws people in, and once it gets in your blood, it never leaves. No matter how hard you try, you can't get out. And I don't understand what it is, and I'm dying to find out what it is, because there's some sort of secret sauce to the people that like model railroading.
I think the main thing is...
I didn't ask you to answer the question.
Yes. Back to the green room.
Yeah. When you were standing in front of the general and he was talking, would you start talking?
Absolutely not.
There you go.
If you're telling me you're the general, I'm not going to say a word.
I'm not the general, but I am the evil overlord. So you take that any way you want.
That's even higher than a general.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Brad, we got an important job for you. Just as soon as you tell us all about Rapido trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's H-O, the fast track is Rapido.
And now we're going to have some fun. Because, Brad, what's our email address?
Our email address, if you'd like to contact us with constructive criticism or with a positive comment, is modelerslife@gmail.com. That's modeler with one L as in N scale, not two L's as in model railroading.
Okay, cool. And I am putting out this plea to the AML Nation. I'm begging you. Somebody out there. I know there's thousands of you out there. I'm begging you. Please help Brad with his microphone.
Sign on to Iron City N scale and
No, you're part of the AML Nation, aren't you?
Yeah, AML.
Can't you post that on the fans page? Somebody,
yes, I will.
Somebody help.
I'm going to do that as soon as we're done. I'm going to make a post.
All right. And this is our free channel. And if so, Pat, let me ask you a question. If I ask you a question, can I get an honest answer?
You will get an honest answer, yes.
Have you ever wanted a T-shirt with a hot dog on it?
Absolutely.
Well, if you go to our website, amodelerslife.com, which has got nothing to do with the T-shirt with the hot dog on it. But if you go to Midwest Model Railroad, and their URL is midwestmodelrr.com, and go across the navigation bar to Other, and click on that. And the drop-down menu, you'll see AML Shop. And there's also, if you scroll down the page, there's also a picture of me behind the desk with our couch. And you find the AML Shop on the Midwest Model Railroad site, and you go in there. You're in a wonderland of AML merchandise: hats, hoodies, T-shirts, mugs, and in there you will find a T-shirt with a hot dog on it.
I can't wait.
There you go. And and you can wear it. You know what? You can wear it to Springfield next year when you come.
There you go.
Yeah. But if you do go to our website, amodelerslife.com, and you didn't catch the email address, if you just click on the picture of the moderately agitated mailboy in a particularly agitated state, the email address will be filled in for you, and all you got to do is put in your title and the body of your message and hit send, and you're ready to go. Have you ever done that, Brad?
Many times, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I've clicked on Bruce's face more times than I can even remember.
I always like to click on his nose.
Yep.
And if you guys enjoyed this podcast, if you go to another link on our website, for Patreon, if you enjoyed this podcast for just a few cents a day, you can have twice as much podcasting every week by joining our Patreon channel. And we have two links there. We have just your basic, you get the podcast every week. And then for a bit of double that, you get an opportunity to get a T-shirt every year. And that's kind of a crapshoot because I'm in charge of the T-shirts. They do go out. Everybody gets their T-shirt, and they're great T-shirts.
Outstanding T-shirts.
They're outstanding T-shirts. And we're very happy to do that. And we're very thankful to everybody that belongs to the Patreon channel because it's helps us pay for some of our expenses at Tomstock and things like that, renting buses and stuff like that, and RDCs. Renting an RDC is actually way more expensive than I would have imagined.
I bet. Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. You guys have got to come to Tomstock. You're coming to Tomstock, aren't you, Brad?
Oh yes,
yeah,
definitely.
You're gonna have the time of your life. It is such a great time. I think that's it. Have we covered everything, Brad?
For this show, I think we have, but I think we have to have Pat back again.
Well, I think we got to have the Iron City N Scale guys back again.
Yeah,
and one of our topics next time with Iron City is going to be veterans and how the hobby helps veterans. Because we have one of our guys, Andy Zimmerman, who is the Standards and Conformance Chairman for the NMRA.
Also a member of Iron City N Scale.
There you go. Great guy. And he's going to be on again. Actually, we're going to talk to him. And because I got to kind of apologize to him. I feel like I kind of have to apologize to Andy. Or maybe I already did, depending on when this podcast came out. Pat, have you ever thought to yourself when you listen to this podcast, boy, if it was professional, it would be good?
Oh, maybe a time or two.
Yeah, there you go. Anybody who says no is lying. Let's come on.
We think that about the Iron City N scale a lot, too.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. Well, I constantly think about that with you, Brad.
I know you. Yep.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good for me to know that you're just thinking about me, though.
There you go. Yeah. And then I get that chill down my spine.
That whole wide berth thing.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? I had started. I feel like the way for the NMRA to move forward and to become a great organization is to concentrate on fellowship. And I think standards and conformances are very, very important. But I think for selling the NMRA, they need to sell it by fellowship. So I don't want Andy Zimmerman and all the hard work that he does to get left in the shadows. So that's why we have him on again.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It does make sense. It's not one of the few things that I do that doesn't make sense, but it does make sense.
It might be like, come for the fellowship, stay for the standards.
There you go.
You know?
And here's a little side note that has absolutely nothing to do with anything. But my dog, Molly Dog, she's still a puppy, but she has discovered that she loves to ride in my golf cart.
That's cool.
It's very cool. But it's like every time I come back with the golf cart, she comes charging out of the garage and gets on it. And I can't put it away until I at least give her a little ride.
Yeah.
I think that's
Have you taken your puppy dog Dave for a ride in it yet?
Yeah. Yeah. And also on the main page, there's a link for Uncle Dave's Patreon page. And if you click on that, he makes a lot of great videos. It's a great page. And you can click on that and go right to the Onondaga Cutoff Patreon page, which is well worth the trouble to do that. Because there's a ton of Dave. I keep telling Dave in a few years he's going to have this really cool library of videos that he can use for all sorts of things. And he's going to have his book out at Springfield. I think this may come out after Springfield. But if not, and he hasn't sold them all, just send him an email at Onondaga Cutoff.
I already did that. I'm getting one of those.
I know.
Guarding the Chicago Line.
Guarding the Chicago Line. It's a great book. Now, the other side of that is that, there is a dark side to Dave, and Dave desperately wanted to be listed in the program and the exhibitors list and on the map for Springfield. And so he asked me that some time ago, and I kind of tried to blow him off. But have you ever been pecked to death by a duck?
I haven't, but I get the feeling that you have.
Well, I'm thinking it must be what it's like, because it was just like every time I tried to fluff him off, and and I wouldn't answer his emails, would be like, and I'm like, what? You're already in the show. You're with the Modeler's Life thing. What is it you want? But anyways. When you hit a guy in the head with a 2x4, eventually he says, hey, wait a minute, that's hurting. I think we're done.
Okay.
So now, Pat, we have an important job for you.
Okay.
At the appropriate moment, we need you to say happy rails to you.
Okay.
Now, the key here is there's no dancing, there's no singing, there's no interpretation. It's just simply a happy rails to you, and you say it with enthusiasm.
Okay.
Do you think you can do that?
I hope so.
Okay. Well, Pat, as we close the barn doors on another episode of A Modeler's Life and the sun slowly sets over the back 40, I guess there's nothing else left to do except for you to say,
happy rails to you.
Island, Busted Knuckle, guests of a Modeler's Life podcast, stay at the Casa del Sol Motor Court and Inn, where late night dancing at the Rumba Room is a magical event to be experienced.
It's another Lincoln Homer.
Yeah, did you not hear the enthusiasm part? Like I was thinking more like happy rails to you.
Okay.
Not like you were in some sort of, you'd been eating too much turkey or something.
Back to the green room.
Would you like to try again?
I would, please.
Yeah. Well, Pat, as the sun slowly, let's see, how does it go? Well, Pat, as the sun slowly sets over the back 40, I can't even remember how it goes now. I'm done.
I guess there's nothing left for you to say.
Except.
Happy rails to you.
There you go. That was pretty good, don't you think, guys?
Yeah, I liked it.
I don't think Pat was too thrilled with it.
Oh, I'm good.
we always wonder, Pat, when we do these. It's like, man, we had a lot of fun. I wonder if anybody else will have fun listening to them.
Yeah.
I look down and it's 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, where am I? I'm like a time machine or something.